As good as the Seahawks defense was in 2025, it can always get better. An excellent unit that created pressures through waves of rushers on the edge and up the middle. One thing that could make them even more dangerous is a true game wrecker on the edge. Maxx Crosby has been a target of Schneider's for years, but the Raiders have always turned him away. Now in need of a drastic overhaul, they finally come to the table ready to make a deal. And with the right draft capital in hand, John Schneider finally gets his man. A game wrecker on the edge, a tone setter, a backfield destroyer, hungry for a championship. Add that to the Darkside defense, and what you have is a unit that no offense wants to see in January. If you did it with only this year's draft picks, could you still navigate the draft well enough to prevent roster gaps from becoming season-ending problems? Let's find out in today's episode here at the 12's War Room. Welcome back to the 12's War Room. Today, in episode 6, we will run Mock Draft 4.0. But this draft comes with a very important pre-draft move. Today, we ask a simple question. What would the draft look like if the Seahawks made one of the biggest moves of the offseason and traded for Maxx Crosby? Now, before we get into the mock draft itself, let's talk about the parameters of that scenario. In this version of events, Seattle is going to be willing to make the move to get Crosby, but with one important boundary. We are not giving up any future draft capital beyond 2026. All signs right now suggest that the 2027 draft class could be significantly stronger than the 2026 class. So in this scenario, we're protecting those future picks. If a deal gets done, it has to happen using this year's draft capital and potentially one or more players currently on the roster. So the package we're exploring looks like this. The Seahawks send their first round pick, their second round pick, and edge rusher Derick Hall to the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, if that's not enough in your mind to get Crosby, I understand. We can pretend that we included Tyrese Knight or Riley Mills or some other young players as well. But in return, we get Maxx Crosby, one of the most disruptive pass rushers in the NFL. Now, this isn't about arguing whether or not the Seahawks should make that trade. I have an opinion on whether they should or not, but I'm not going to let my opinion dominate this conversation. This episode is about exploring what the world would look like if they were to do it. Because a move like that would dramatically reshape the team, not just on the field, but in how the Seahawks approach the draft. First, there's the salary cap component. Crosby carries a very large cap hit in the near term, which would immediately become one of the biggest contracts on Seattle's roster. But there is an interesting wrinkle to his deal. His cap number actually declines over time, and more importantly, he's already signed all the way through 2029. So assuming he's willing to play out the remainder of his contract as is, it's not as devastating as it might appear on the surface. That long-term control is pretty attractive. But it also comes with consequences. Adding Crosby would almost certainly affect Seattle's ability to extend some of the young players that are part of that next wave of roster decisions. Guys like Byron Murphy, Zach Charbonnet, or A.J. Barner. There's also key veteran players that would be more difficult to re-sign. You've got Leonard Williams coming up next year in 2027. Then in 2028, you've got Sam Darnold, plus Julian Love, Ernest Jones, and then a few guys that might be retiring soon regardless, but to mention them, Cooper Kupp, DeMarcus Lawrence, and Jarran Reed. So this move would clearly signal something about Seattle's priorities. It would say that the championship window is open right now, and the goal is to maximize the next 1 or 2 seasons, even if that means that window might close sooner down the road. And when you look around the NFC West, that logic actually starts to make sense. The biggest obstacle to another championship run right now might still be the Los Angeles Rams, who just made a major move of their own, acquiring Trent McDuffie from the Chiefs to help a secondary that Sam Darnold and the Seahawks passing attack took advantage of. That move was, I believe, a direct response to losing to Seattle. And if the Seahawks traded for Crosby, that would be our response back. Because if you look at the games against the Rams last year, there were moments when Seattle simply could not generate enough pressure on Matt Stafford. And then when that happened, he picked our defense apart somewhat. So adding Crosby would change that equation immediately. Even though Seattle finished near the top of the league in total quarterback pressures, the Seahawks edge group has not been built around elite sack production. They do a lot of things well, like setting the edge, collapsing pockets, playing the run, but pure game-wrecking sack production off the edge is still one area they could improve, and Crosby brings exactly that. But here's the problem. If you trade away your first and your second round picks, the draft becomes a completely different challenge. You're really one step shy of punting on the 2026 draft altogether. So, all of the same roster needs still exist. We're still assuming potential departures at edge, cornerback, running back, safety, and with the recent Rashid Shaheed news, we need to start thinking about wide receiver as well. But now you have almost no draft capital to address all those needs, so you can't really get too fixated on any one position. That means if Seattle wants to walk away from this draft with 2 or 3 rookies capable of competing for real roles, John Schneider is going to have to pull off some serious draft day magic. So that's the challenge we're exploring today. The Seahawks make the blockbuster move, Maxx Crosby joins the Darkside defense, and then we try to work a draft miracle to bring in someone that adds talent and production to the team. So let's head over to the draft and see if we can't work that miracle. We are now over at PFF to begin our mock draft 4.0. We're almost ready to begin that draft. But first, we are going to go ahead and make that offseason move to acquire Maxx Crosby. So we're going to find Max in the list. As I mentioned, we are offering Derick Hall. PFF only allows me to give up 1 player. Again, if you don't think that that's enough to go with our first and second round draft pick, PFF seems to think so, but it will really depend on the market for him. If there are lots of suitors, then that price tag will go up. If some of the interest wanes, then maybe this would be enough. Regardless, this is kind of what we're going to go in for today. You'll notice that I did get back pick 134 from them because PFF thought I could get a little bit back from it, which I did. So now we're going to go into this draft with pick 96, 134, and 212. As I said, that is really one step shy of punting on this entire draft, but we're going to see what kind of magic we have up our sleeves here. This is a long wait to get to our pick. Okay, here we are at pick 96. Let's take a look and see which players are available to us. I do like some of the players that I see. I am a big Elijah Surratt fan. I am also, as you guys know, a Jonah Coleman fan. Now, PFF did some rearranging, looks like today, and so some of these guys are in a little bit different positions than what I'm used to seeing. We'll see if that throws me off my game a little bit. Now we need to take a quick look at the trade opportunities in front of us. There's our good friends the Raiders, who we just got a trade done with. They want to trade again. Okay, they want to swap 96 and 102. Let's see what they are willing to give us in return. It'll be a couple late round picks. Now because we have so little draft capital, and I said we're going to try to work a miracle, I am going to be a little more aggressive. I'm going to break my above 50% rule. We'll see if they're willing to do this trade. By doing this, it does mean I am passing up on 2 players that I like, Surratt and Coleman. But guys, the only way I'm going to be able to replenish my roster is if I pick up a few more picks. And if I use this pick, then all I'll have left to trade back is 134. So we're going to make the sacrifice and offer the trade. Okay, they didn't quite like that trade. We're going to take 219 and we'll go ahead and take 181 off and replace it with 184. Okay, so we moved back 6 spots. We picked up 2 later round picks. We will likely lose out on those players, but let's go ahead and see. Okay, as expected, we did miss out on both of the players that we liked. We also lost out on Jayshawn Barham, who I like. I've talked about him before in previous drafts. Now we're in a spot where there's a bunch of guys that are good, but I don't know that I really need to prioritize them. We're going to see what other trade opportunities we have. We can go back from 102 to 110. We're going to go ahead and do that. Again, we are trying to collect as much capital as we can, even if it means we pass up on higher quality guys, try to get more bites at the apple, and see if that can help us. Okay, again, I'm not sure how realistic this is to give up 102, only move back 8 spots and pick up 3 more picks, but PFF's going to let us do it. And again, this is Schneider working his magic. We're back on the clock at pick 110. I like Billy Schrauth. I also like Rayshon Benny. Now, he used to be down in the 6th round or almost 7th round or so. He has catapulted all the way up into the low 100s. So that's not a player that we're going to be targeting right now, being on the defensive line. I like Mikhail Kamara, and we're going to see what else we got. Kilgore is another guy that I like who has moved up in this latest version of PFF's draft board. Let's take a look at the trade opportunity. Okay, this one drops us back quite a ways. If I were to do it, we'd have to see what they'd be willing to give us. Yeah, this one's not working out great. We're going to go ahead and draft a player. I might think about drafting Billy Schrauth, but at guard, again, we have Anthony Bradford. I know many of you are not his biggest fan, but he started every game for us this last year. We still do have Christian Haynes, so I'm going to prioritize edge for this particular pick, and we're going to draft Mikhail Kamara. Now we'll see what falls to us at pick 134. Okay, we have Emmett Johnson here, who I have not talked about yet. This is a very productive, solid running back out of Nebraska. Put up 1,450 yards this year. Also had 46 catches for another 370 yards. So we're talking about a guy who put up over 1,800 yards this year. Also had 12 touchdowns. Did play against some good competition, playing against Big Ten teams. So I think this is a good option. Let's see what else we have. I do like Jacoby Lane also. If we were to go for a receiver, you're talking about a 6'4" guy out of USC who has a pretty good receiving grade, 750 yards this year and 4 touchdowns. He is an option. If we feel like Nicholas Singleton is better than Emmett Johnson, we could do that as well. Devin Marshall is a cornerback out of North Carolina State who has some of the highest grades in cornerbacks that you're going to see, both in coverage and in the run defense. And one thing that might surprise you is that he did also play against some pretty good competition: Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, Miami, Florida State. So it's not like he was resting on his laurels all year long playing against lesser schools. Size-wise, he's 5'11", 200 pounds. Good option if we want to grab a cornerback at this point. Again, now there are no trade opportunities, so I think it's time we make a pick. This is a good time, I believe, to go ahead and draft a running back to help us with that hole between Walker and Charbonnet. So we are drafting Emmett Johnson out of Nebraska. Now we're going to lose out on the next 40 guys or so and come up down to the pick 174. It's going to get a little slim now. Okay, surprisingly, Nicholas Singleton fell all this way. If I had known that, I might have grabbed a different player outside of running back, but such is the draft. I'm probably not going to go ahead and double up this quickly on in running back, so let's see what else we can do. Other players that I like down in this range, I do like Caden Curry. Let me say something a little bit about him. I know I grabbed Mikhail Kamara earlier, and so this will be my second edge rusher. But this year, 12s, we saw something really kind of special when Cooper Kupp came over. We immediately saw how JSN's game elevated. We saw Cooper Kupp giving him tips and tricks and coaching, and it really helped catapult JSN's career. Now, we're bringing Maxx Crosby over. So if I'm looking at that Cooper Kupp JSN scenario, I think this is a great time when you bring over a guy like Maxx Crosby, if he's willing, get a couple young edge rushers to come in and kind of be the understudy, learning from Maxx Crosby. So I like the Caden Curry here at this pick. We should Before we jump into it, though, we should look at our trade opportunity. We can go down from pick 174 to 186, but if we go too much further, we're really just going to be grabbing more guys to bring into camp, and a lot of them probably won't make the team, or at best they'll make the practice squad. So we're going to go ahead and try to actually start drafting players who we think have a chance to make an impact, even if it isn't a rotational role. I still like this idea of an understudy for Maxx Crosby, so Caden Curry is our pick. Now we're going to go to pick 184. Before we continue, let's review what we've got so far. Not much. We've got 2 edge rushers and Emmett Johnson. Now, if you're wondering why I'm prioritizing edge rusher outside of the understudy thing that I just said, you have to remember in this scenario, we're not only losing Mafe to free agency, but we're also trading away Derick Hall as part of that Crosby package. So that's why edge has been a big priority here. I feel like we still could use some cornerback help, safety if possible, receiver if possible. So let's kind of take a look at what's available. Let's go down a little further and see who's down here. Okay, so this is a little bit of a puzzling one because we've got Tacario Davis out of the University of Washington. I was a big fan of him. I mentioned him in a previous video. In this latest version of PFF Sport, he's actually gone down, which is very strange to me because he had a really good combine and was able to wow some people, mainly because of his size. He is 6'4", 200 pounds, but he ran a 4.5 40, and so I think that put him on a lot of people's radar. I don't know why he went down. He did not run the agility tests at the combine, and so maybe that could be an issue. But I watched him at the UW, and in particular a couple years ago, he played outstanding on the run to the national championship that we had. He has struggled a little bit under new coaches, but I believe with his frame and with that speed, if we were looking for someone, he's not Reek Woolen, but if we were looking for someone who could maybe develop into something similar to that, I think Tacario Davis is the guy. And I'm not going to waste any more time, and I'm going to grab him right now. Now we're only a few picks away, so we can see what else is available to us. Okay, I mentioned before we haven't done anything about the offensive line. We have Drew Shelton here, tackle out of Penn State. He is their starting left tackle, played the whole year, has pretty decent numbers, fairly average, only gave up 1 sack but did give up 17 hurries. He could be an option if we wanted to do that. For example, if we were to lose Josh Jones this year as our backup left tackle, he could be an option. I also think Pat Coogan, center out of Indiana, who again just won the national championship, so you know he's gone up against the best of the best. This guy had a pretty good year. No sacks, no hits, only 10 hurries. So from a pass blocking standpoint, outperformed Penn State's left tackle. Also has a little bit better run block grade. A lot of people like the pairing of Jalen Sundell and Gray Zabel, who blocked together at college. But if we needed to bring in an offensive lineman, and in particular a center, Pat Coogan could be a good option for us. Looking down the board at what else might be available, again, it is a little bit slim pickings. I do like Red Murdoch, linebacker. Okay, I'm not seeing a whole lot that we're going to jump for, so I think Pat Coogan is the best player available on the board right now, so we're going to pick him at 188. Okay, we still have 3 more picks. After going into the draft with 3 picks, we made a bunch of trades, and we've put ourselves fairly late in the draft, but again, these are lottery tickets at this point, you guys. We haven't looked at any safeties yet, and there are 3 right here. Of the 3, we should take a look at Cole Wisanowski out of Texas Tech. He has, once it pops up, very good overall grades. He missed all of 2024, but before that, he had one of the higher safety grades in all of college football, and then backed it up after missing a year with another very solid year. Good in coverage, good in the run defense, plays kind of this hybrid box, mostly deep role. If you line that up with Kobe Bryant's role, also a little bit in the slot, what you're going to find is that a little bit of flexibility is something that could be very valuable to replace Kobe Bryant. I'm not going to go any further, guys. We're going with Cole Wisniewski at 198. Okay, we're not going to waste too much time because, as I said before, a lot of these guys may never see the field. We picked up Colby Young in a previous draft. What's attractive about him is his size at 6'4", 215. He's an option. The only other option that I might go with is Roman Hemby to help with our running back situation. So I just want to decide if we should get a receiver or if we should get a second running back. This is debatable, but I'm going to go with who I think is the better player, and that's Roman Hemby. And then we're on for our last pick. Looks like Colby Young is still here. I think of the other players that are available, he is my choice. So why waste any more time? Let's go. So after going into the draft with 3 picks, we are coming away with quite a few players here. Again, this might have been just the biggest practice squad draft in the history of sports, but I do think that there's at least a few of these guys who are going to compete for some sort of role. And we hope that some of them can develop into something meaningful. PFF likes our draft, even though what they're grading us on is how we've matched our position needs with the ranking of the player and where we picked them at. So this is why I don't necessarily put a ton of stock into this. But hey, like I said, we came in with 3 picks and we're walking away with 8 guys, and hopefully 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 of them could pop in camp and either make the team, or if not, stay on the practice squad, and maybe they can fight for a roster spot throughout the year or into next year. Let's head back over to the war room to evaluate our draft and compare it to what needs we had. Okay, 12s, we're back in the war room ready to analyze how our draft came out. Now, before I do that, you can probably make an argument that some of the trades that we made, or even the quantity of the trades we made, may be a little bit in question. I don't know if what we gave up in this scenario to get Maxx Crosby is realistic. We won't know that until we know what the true market is for him. I also don't know if the GMs of the league would be willing to put up with John Schneider's incessant phone calls, doing all the trades that we did. That was a lot of trades, but we were able to pick up 8 players in the draft when we went into with only 3 picks. But I said before, this was our attempt to make a miracle, and that's what we came up with. So let's take a look at the positions that we were in need of. 2 running back spots, a wide receiver spot, which of course also in Shahid's case comes with a very, very strong specialist role as our punt and kick returner. We had 2 edge spots that we needed to fill, a cornerback spot and our safety spot. We were able to pick up a player at each one of these spots. And in addition, we added a center to the mix. In our running back room, we added Emmett Johnson out of Nebraska and Roman Hemby out of Indiana. These are 2 very, very productive players. They are not viewed as top talent running backs, so their talent level is not going to match Walker and Charbonnet's. But really what we're trying to do here is we're going to pair these 2 guys up, probably with Kenny McIntosh and or George Holani, and try to see if we can't hold the fort down until Zach Charbonnet gets back. Or probably the more likely scenario is that we will go out and get a veteran free agent running back. There are still some free agent running backs that I like, Tyler Algier, and I noticed the Vikings let go of Aaron Jones, and we just got a quarterback off of the Vikings scrap heap. Wouldn't it be kind of fun to get a running back who also revives his career here? That'd be fun. Anyway, I don't think we did a whole lot of good at our receiver room in the draft. It's no knock on Colby Young. I just don't know that he's ready to step into any kind of meaningful role right now. As far as receiver goes, and really, I guess, as far as the special teams role of punt and kick returner for Rashid Shaheed, in this scenario, I suppose what we're saying is that we're hoping that Torrey Horton is going to be back ready to go full health and play a full year, because he was pretty darn good. In fact, he was actually a more impactful receiver than Shaheed was. I don't know that we can say that he was quite as impactful as in the special teams role, but he did score a touchdown and he was pretty good in the limited time that we saw. So if Horton's good to go, I'm a lot less worried about this receiver spot. At cornerback, we lost Woolen, but we replaced his spot with Takario Davis. Maybe not as long arms and not as fast as Woolen, but if we're lucky, maybe he doesn't come with some of the questionable mental errors that Woolen came with this year. At safety, again, Kobe Bryant being gone, we picked up Cole Wisniewski. And whether or not he competes for a starting role or not, I'm not sure. I like what I see from him. We do have Ty Okada, who as an exclusive rights free agent, we already tendered him. So there's every probability that he will be our starting safety in this scenario where Kobe Bryant leaves, but it's good to have another backup. Where we really came out strong in this draft is at edge. Of course, it wasn't just the draft, but our blockbuster move of bringing in Maxx Crosby, as well as Mikhail Kamara and Caden Curry to be understudies of Maxx Crosby. So I think in this scenario, we have a major upgrade of our pass rush off the edge. As hard as it was to say goodbye to Boyamafe and Derick Hall, we're going to see more from Crosby and the gang this year. Overall, did we do enough with these moves, namely picking up Crosby and then in this draft? Did we do enough to improve our team? It's probably debatable. I think we would see a big improvement from our edge rush, but I think these other areas are going to suffer just a little bit, and it really depends on how well guys like these that are here or the guys like Ty Okada and Torrey Horton could step up. So that's a wrap on Mock Draft 4.0. Leave a comment down below if you think that trading for Maxx Crosby is a good idea or a terrible one. Thanks, 12s, and we'll see you again next time at the 12s War Room. We just explored what happens when the Seahawks go all in and trade away most of their draft capital to get Maxx Crosby, elevating the defense to an even darker place, but forcing John Schneider to work miracles on the phone to assemble enough players to compete for all the open roster spots. But next episode, the problem flips to the other side of the ball, because heading into draft day, Jackson Smith-Njigba finds himself all alone. But this time, it's not because he left his defender behind. Now, it's because suddenly, he is the only wide receiver left on the active roster. Cooper Kupp, retired. Rashid Shaheed, flown away. Torrey Horton, still recovering. And everyone's favorite, No Mo Bobo. With several other roster holes demanding attention, how does John Schneider rebuild a receiver core through the draft so that Sam Darnold isn't left scanning the field, seeing only the ghosts of wide receivers past? We'll find out next time in the 12's War Room.